I got you in trouble, but it was a favor. I did you a favor and I got you in trouble. I'm lying.
I wonder if everyone could take their seats. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Bloomington Committee of the Whole to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Maffey,
Here.
Alderman Sage, Alderman Mwambwe,
Here.
Alderman Burgess,
Here.
Alderman Painter,
Here.
Alderman Schmidt,
Here.
Alderman Black, Alderman Howman,
Here.
Alderman Bray,
Here.
Mayor
And
Renner.
here. And just to let you know, Alderman Sage is in the room, in the building. I saw him at some point, so he'll be here shortly, I'm sure.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and start. We do not have any public comment today. And it's another one of those call Ripley's Believe It or Not moments. And we are going to move right along to the consideration of approving the minutes of the March 18th, 2019 Committee of the Whole as requested by the City Clerk Department. Is there a motion to approve, or are there changes to the minutes as presented?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Move to have the minutes presented, excuse me, yes.
Second.
What you said, to have the minutes approved as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, excuse me, you did that, by Alderwoman Painter. And there is Alderman Sage. Told you. Okay. And any further comment or questions on this? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll then on this?
Alderman Maffey,
Yes.
Alderman Sage,
Yes.
Alderman Mwambwe,
Yes.
Alderman Burgess,
Yes.
Alderman Painter,
Yes.
Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Black,
Yes.
Alderman Howman,
Yes.
Alderman Bray. Yes.
Okay. We move right along to a presentation of regarding World Circus Day, as is requested by the administration. And this is, of course, a presentation only. We have a brief overview by Mr. Gleason, and then by Mr. John Wolwend, and this is 10 minutes and approximately 10-minute council discussion. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gleason.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we're going to have a presentation. His business card reads, The Amazing John Wolwend. And his passion, I've quickly learned, for keeping the history, of Bloomington with the circus is first and foremost. John, if you wouldn't mind, come down to the podium and it's your turn. Thank you.
Okay, my name's John Wolwend. Most of you know me from 40 plus years at Jack Lewis Jewelers. But one of my passions as a kid as well as an adult, specifically now that I have more time to devote to it, has been the American circus, as well as in particular circus in McLean County. And what a huge impact the Bloomington, Normal, and McLean County had in the world of circus back in the 20s and 30s. The World Circus Day that we're going to be celebrating Saturday is exactly what it says, World Circus Day. Princess Stephanie of Monaco named the World Circus Day as the third Saturday of April each year, where circus is celebrated throughout the world. Circuses that are performing, they will have a moment to recognize World Circus Day. It's advertised as a great time to take a kid to the circus and everything else. The way that this kind of got started, there's a couple of new headstones at Park Hill Cemetery for the Ward family. They were installed last October. The Ward family was a troupe in Bloomington Normal, best known for the Grand Hotel, the Practice Barn on East Emerson Street. And the two headstones have been placed, one of which, the newest grave, was interred in 1955. So Saturday morning, we're going to start off at Park Hill Cemetery. The day's events are on the back of this. We're rededicating the blessing. Father Halt from St. Matthew's Church is going to do a little bit of a service. For the Ward family, I believe we have about 23 descendants of the Wards that will be in town that weekend, or next Saturday. Then at 1 o'clock we have a presentation, Come Fly With Me, at the museum with Maureen Brunsdale, and she's the Director of Circus and Allied Arts at ISU, Special Collections. Sherry Valentine she was a flyer with the Flying Valentinos locally. And Steve Gossard, and he is an authority on the American aerialists in Bloomington, and as well as throughout the throughout the world of circus. Then at 2:15 on Saturday, we're going to have unveiling of a maquette of a sculpture that's going to be dedicated to the Bloomington Normal Circus Heritage. It'll be placed right over in the corner of Washington and East Street, where the original YMCA was. The pictures that I'm circulating, none of the local acts actually performed in tents. The only time they were in a tent was when they were on the road someplace. So that picture, it's not aerialists, but it is acrobats. And that picture, I think, was taken around 1931 in the main party of the YMCA. Andrew Jumanville is the artist for the sculpture. He's here with us tonight. It will be placed at the corner of Washington and Main Street. We will unveil the model Saturday afternoon in the Governor Pfeiffer courtroom at the McLean County Museum of History. On with the day's activities. Well, this past weekend was the 90th edition of the Gamma Phi Circus. Amazing show. 107 kids in it this year. So at 6 o'clock at the Normal Theater, there will be a performance by Gamma Phi, a short performance that will be listed as kind of a rendition, if you will, a little bit about the movie on The Greatest Showman. Gamma Phi is also getting together a collection of artifacts over the past 90 years that will be on the display on the back hallway of the Marriott on the west side of the theater. There will also be a display at the museum Saturday afternoon of some local collections, as well as any number of pieces that are actually owned by the museum. Then we will have an announcement. Actually, the announcement was already made over the weekend at Gamma Phi. The Circus and Blues Festival, that's traditionally been the last weekend of Normal, is going to be changed to the Sweet Corn Circus Festival. And that will be a yearly event, always the same weekend. The blues part came from it with when WGLT had a blues format, and they were a large in-kind sponsor, more so than a financial sponsor, so that's the blues part. That is going to be changed to circus. My connection with all of that, when Normal had their 150, they asked me to coordinate efforts for a one-day circus circus acts in 2015. It's going to be pretty much the same. However, instead of 1.5 days, it's going to be 2.5 days. In 2015, I brought the Flying Melindas up from Sarasota, and there were 9 of them. We had 3 performances. This year, we will have the Flying Knox, which is a true 5th generation of sway poles. And the sway pole will be right in the center of Uptown Center. There will be 4 poles, 4 different performers that perform at 127 feet. So that's going to be pretty cool. So back to World Circus Day. After the Gamma Phi Circus presentation in the Normal Theater, we will show The Greatest Show on Earth. It's a $7 admittance charge, which is usual and customary for the Normal Theater. However, that $7 goes to a fundraiser for the Gamma Phi. Normal Theater is allowing us to use the theater at no charge because it is what it is. Then we're going to show The Greatest Show on Earth, which was the Academy Award winner movie in 1952. There are many, many circus movies, lots of them. None of them have the relevance to Bloomington Normal as The Greatest Show on Earth, and that is because of the heritage of the airless legacy. At one time, and I'm not a circus historian by any means, but at one time I have been told that there were 14 practice barns in McLean County, 2 of which are still standing. The Valentine Barn is still on North Grove Street in Normal, and there's one out in the country by Myrna. We did show The Greatest Show on Earth in 2015. We had 22 descendants of the original cast of the movie actually in the theater at that time. So that is my part of it. The festival is going to be on the 23rd and 24th of August. The Miles of Possibility Route 66 conference is going to be here in October, and that's going to be 4 days of Route 66 and 4 days of circus. It's the same 4 days, but it's different formats. Followed the following weekend by Illinois State University's homecoming, which will be circus-centric as well, in celebration of the Gamma Phi Circus. For those of you that are into our local history, there's a book that came out a couple of years ago, The Bloomington Normal Circus Legacy in the Golden Age of the Aerialist, and it's available right across the street in the McLean County Museum of History. Questions?
Okay. Questions? Comments? Alderwoman Schmidt.
No question. Well, actually, John, I do have a question before I
Okay.
make a comment. Have you ever performed? I mean, where is the passion for this?
People ask what I do. I'm an overgrown dwarf. No, I've never performed, and if
I
if I
wondered.
had performed, I don't know what I would do. That takes a certain amount of agility, which I don't think I'm.
I would argue with you
Right.
about that, but that's okay.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you for taking your passion and putting it into this energy.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
What a remarkable way to celebrate this history and to have this in downtown.
And Karen, to tell you what it is, I'm on the board of directors of the Show Folks of Sarasota. That's like a VFW club for circus people.
Yeah.
I walk in, I mention Bloomington, Illinois, and they go, really? Do you know this person? You know this person? Do you know that person? Well, I can stand in this room and mention Bloomington Normal Circus, and they go, what are you talking about? So we are very well known.
We're very blessed, and it's great to have this
Cool.
history acknowledged. And I see Andrew out there. What a wonderful thing to have yet another
Exactly.
spectacular Andrew Jubenville sculpture. So thank you very much.
Yeah, actually, if we could give you a round of applause. Thank you. Thanks again, and thank you, Alderwoman Schmidt, for thanking
And
you.
Andrew can take questions too if...
Andrew, good to see you in the audience. And we're going to go around to Alderman Matthey and Alderman Sage.
I just wanted to say,
Don't go away. Yeah, we make...
yeah,
We were just giving you a hand. We didn't say you could leave.
I just want to say thank you, and I just want to point out for everybody, if you didn't notice, at least 2 of the painted electrical boxes in downtown are circus themed. And John, until you explained it to me, I didn't really know about our history with the circuses here either. And so now I find myself explaining to other people why there's a circus-themed box and why there's a couple of them in downtown. And so it's just a good reminder. There's all kinds of different ways we can call back to the history. So thank you.
We have the circus room at Illinois State.
Yeah, that's right.
Nicer Van Leer, they furnished all the rigging way back when. A lot of people have no idea.
Alderman Sage.
Thanks. John, I thought you might mention the connection actually between, we have a former city clerk from about 40 years ago, Sandy Cordero,
Oh, sure.
who was a city clerk here,
Yeah.
whose husband at that time was part of the Flying Corderos, which was a group that
There you go,
prac-
Leslie.
And I expect that Manuel Cordero will be at the Park Hill Cemetery
Yes.
Saturday
Yeah,
morning.
and they rehearsed down on West Washington
West
Street, like
Washington
between
Street.
Allen and Morris Avenue. There used to be a large open area there.
Yeah.
And I remember driving by there as a kid and seeing them, practicing there. So history even a little bit closer to home than just downtown. It's actually,
It's very close to home.
a connection here to City Hall. So thank you, John.
There's a strip of lots in Park Hill Cemetery with about 16 graves,
Yeah. So
all lined up. And as people would come in off the road in the wintertime, they would sustain themselves the best way they could.
right,
Somebody, we've not identified who, was selling cemetery plots,
right. So
but all he knew was circus people.
yeah. So thank you, John.
Thanks.
Alderwoman Hellman.
Hi, John.
Hi, Diana.
I just want to say thank you not only for what you do for our community, but also for bringing public art to downtown Bloomington. Public art is a reflection of the community in which it's presented, and thanks for taking that on.
Thank you.
And it will be spectacular.
Thanks. Thank you again.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Now
think
I'm
so.
out of here.
And under budget in time. Here we go. We move right along to the presentation by the Public Safety and Community Relations Board, their annual report. And it is a presentation only, of course. And I'm going to start out with Mr. Gleason, followed by Arthur Taylor, who is in the audience, the chairman of the board. Turn over to Mr. Gleason.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is going to be the first annual report. We have Mr. Arthur Taylor that's going to present to the community and the council tonight. Also, Nora there she is, staff liaison if there's any questions of her as well. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm happy to be here. As Tim just mentioned, this is our first annual report from the Public Safety Community Relations Board, affectionately known as the PSCRB. And I also brought some of our board members with me tonight. If they'd stand, Sally Rudolph, Serena Fish, Robert Vasquez. I'm not sure if William Bennett is here or Jan Lancaster, our co-chair, and Jeff Woodard, who are also members of the board. This is the first annual report that's intended to provide a basic summary, a brief summary of the activities of the PSCRB for 2018. As highlights, I'd like to just kind of go over this, and you guys have this in your packages. It's basically a review of our board rules and materials that were developed, review of monthly and quarterly meeting dates, presentations to and feedback from the community, report on complaints that were presented, and action items or board rule amendments that were recommended by the board. The PSCRB held its first organizational meeting in December of 2017, at which time the board was sworn in. Introductions of the board members were made, staff were introduced, and the Bloomington Police Department chief and assistant chiefs were also introduced to the board members. The enacting ordinance was received and reviewed, and discussions were coordinated on the topics that included selection of a chair and co-chair, discussion of the drafted board rules, and future meeting dates. In subsequent meetings in January and in February, a board chairman was selected. That was me. And co-chair was, vice chair was also selected, which is Jan Lancaster. Board rules were adopted pending the city council approval, and community posters and brochures were discussed, at which time later they were approved by the city council and distributed. So the PSCRB established monthly meeting dates for the second Wednesday of each month, and quarterly meetings that will be to be scheduled on the third Wednesday of each quarter, so March, June, September, and November, or December. At our monthly meetings, they included reports from the Bloomington Police Department on the number of complaints received the previous month, those complaints that were received year to date, and any pending investigations. Future meeting dates and locations and pending discussions were also discussed at those meetings. At our quarterly meetings, which were basically designed to allow the community to provide feedback to the PSCRB, any questions about police policy and communications with the police department, as well as anything that the board felt that we could help educate the community on. At those meetings, we more or less, at the first quarterly meetings, we basically introduced the board members. We reviewed the enacting ordinance with the community and answered any questions regarding the purview of the PSCRB and what our actual roles were. Answered any questions. We reviewed our board rules. We reviewed the PSCRB posters and brochures, which I believe have been provided to you under attachments A and B. We also reviewed at our first few meetings the actual Bloomington Police Department complaint review process. After that was more or less discussed and questions answered, we then reviewed the PSCRB's request for review process, which we put in place to handle any pending complaint or request for review that a citizen might make. At our quarterly meetings, we made some educational efforts at presentations for a peace officer power to arrest. We made presentations on the Axon body-worn cameras. And at our December quarterly meeting, we took it upon ourselves to ask the community and stakeholders several questions. Those questions included, was there clarity that the PSCRB cannot review complaints until an initial complaint was filed with the Bloomington Police Department? Was there clarity that after the Bloomington Police Department sends its response, a person must complete a PSCRB form to request a review by the board? Were there fears in completing the PSCRB form? Were those fears being addressed by the processes of the Bloomington Police Department or the PSCRB and by the rules that had been established? And did the stakeholder groups still believe that there was a need for the PSCRB? And if so, why were there no complaints to that date? And those were questions that we asked of the stakeholders who helped put the PSCRB in place. And then we asked for suggestions and questions and comments. The feedback that we got from the community was received well, and the board basically took upon itself an understanding that, based off of the community comment, that the PSCRB was in fact needed, and there was lots of conversation around the fact as to why there were no complaints to that date. And um, basically, we took under advisement other suggestions during our quarterly meetings as to what the community felt we needed to do to best serve the community as a board. An example of some of those community suggestions had to do with, first of all, our meeting places, at which we took very seriously where we met, because at first we were meeting in the Bloomington Police Department. At that suggestion, we decided that we would move our monthly meetings and quarterly meetings around to different purviews in the places in the community. We've subsequently met at the YWCA, here at the City Council Fishbowl, Mid-Central Community Action Agency, City of Refuge Ministries, and at Mount Pisgah. Other community feedbacks included suggestions to streamline the Bloomington, the PSCRB brochures, in which that suggestion was made to make our brochures available in Spanish, and that you also have in your package under attachment C. In January of this year, the PSCRB received its first request for review in January of 2019 through the City Legal Department. That complaint was 19-R-001. The board reviewed the citizens' request for review and requested additional documents from the Bloomington Police Department and from City Legal. Having received those, we followed all of our established board rules and maintained the confidentiality of the complainant and our confidentiality guidelines. And the board found that the Bloomington Police Department had followed its complaint review process, exonerating the police officer in question, and did not recommend any policy or practice revisions. The results of our review were communicated to the citizen, with copies of that communication sent to the city manager and to the Bloomington Police Department. Other action items that took place during this year were recommendations to change a few of our board rules, which at the last city council meeting were adopted. That was a change in Chapter 1, Section 3, that the first sentence read, "The board shall annually, at its first meeting in May," changed from February, elect its board chair and vice chair. The reason being that terms expired for several of our board members at the end of April, and we wanted them, the newly selected board members, to be available to vote for chair and vice chair at the first meeting in May. So that was adopted. And to add the paragraph in Chapter 1 or in Section 3 that the board chair or designee shall be a liaison to the city council for purposes of reporting to the board pertinent city council activity. And that's more or less for communication's sake, that the board felt that if there were needs that the city council or activity that the city council had discussed might be pertinent to the PSCRB, that we would have that information available. That's the end of my report. I would say that the PSCRB, being a new board, takes its role in the community extremely serious, and that the board members all are very professional in their activities on the board, and our discussions are quite lively, but also quite pertinent to communication and very good communication and the inoculation of the community with reference to the Bloomington Police Department, of which we've had full cooperation, and we really do appreciate the chief and his assistant chiefs, Chief Wheeler and particularly Chief Donath, for Assistant Chief Donath, for their assistance with and questions that the PSCRB has had with reference to our duties, and we couldn't be happier with the association that we have with the Bloomington Police Department. And if I could speak for them, I think that they would say the same thing of the board itself. I'm pleased to be the chairman and look forward to other meetings that we will have. While we've only had one complaint, we think that that's a good thing because the board was put in place to be that inoculation to the community and a liaison between the council and the Bloomington Police Department and the community. And we appreciate our responsibilities, and we look forward to further servicing the community. Any questions?
Yeah, we do want to say thank you, and if we could also give a round of applause, because we've got a couple board members. Thank you all. I very much appreciate your work in getting this started, and our assistant chief in the back, who you specifically mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Alderman Miller-Wamboy.
Sure. No questions, but I just wanted to say thank you to you and to the board. I know volunteering sometimes can be a luxury because time is precious. But I think this is working just like I envisioned it. It's going to take some time, to build up to full strength, full capacity. But it just opened another avenue of communication between the community, the police department, the city council, and I think that's for the better. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Alderman.
Thanks. Alderwoman, Bray, and then Alderman Black.
Well, I'd just like to echo those comments and just say you were given the task of the startup and the sweat equity that was involved with that. So thank you, Chairman Taylor, for taking that on. Thank you to the board members for their due diligence and making this a productive exchange in our community, because that was our plan as we put together what could be a workable review board for our community to address what was happening in our community while there were fears out there about what could be happening, but what might not be happening, and we took a lot of public comment about various pieces that were happening in other communities, and there were suspicions about things, and I give you that flavor. Just say that thank you for stepping forward, taking on this task, and unbundling it, and putting together then a workable committee, and also the manner in which you put it together. One of the things I think that we envisioned as well was this idea that we get a feedback piece, to have the quarterly meetings and go into the community and meet people where they are and ask some of the hard questions. And I see that you've done that. And again, just thank you so much for the execution of this task. The manner in which you've done it is simply remarkable, and I commend you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Bray. As I said, that our board takes its responsibilities very seriously. I can speak for them and say that we came to this endeavor with no agendas, and only merely to serve and to be the communication piece that was felt needed, and we've taken that responsibility very seriously. Thank you.
Alderman Black.
Thank you. And on top of the general thank yous, thank you for everything that the board has been doing over the last year. But I just want to highlight one thing that I think is the most important from your presentation this evening, is the efforts that you've made to accommodate different times to go into different areas of the community to encourage that outreach. And I know that in a lot of things that when we're up here, we have to be very methodical about what days and times meetings are posted and all of that. But I think when we had this conversation a year and some ago, almost 2 years ago now, that wasn't the intention of this council, and you guys have really seized on that to get out there and do more. To me, a success is exactly what's happening, is that we've created a mechanism for folks who may feel as though that they haven't been treated properly to come forward. We haven't seen big numbers, but I'm really proud of the work that you guys have been doing to encourage the community outreach and build those community relationships. I guess my question is, I think by every measure we've been successful in this front. Have Normal or the county reached out to us to see how they might implement something like this as well?
They've not reached out to me. I know that there had been some discussion in Normal, but outside of the initial conversation, no one has come to us or our board meetings to ask questions or for public comment. So to answer your question, no.
Have any other communities reached out to us about how we've set this up and have
We
implementing?
took feedback from other communities at the time that we were reviewing our board rules. The initial board rules were kind of blended from some other communities who had similar boards set up, and what we took was a hodgepodge of some of their processes and best practices and incorporated them into our board rules. So from a formal perspective, yes, we had some outside feedback or input into what the board rules were. But as far as any communication outside of that, no, we haven't had any. And quite frankly, the fact that we've had very few, one complaint so far that we've had to review speaks, and we honestly had a conversation about this at our last meeting as to whether or not what factored into the fact that there were very few complaints, because year to date, there had been only 2 complaints to the Bloomington Police Department, none of them rising to a review of the PSCRB. So our question was the PSCRB part of the reason why that complaints were down? Was it the body-worn cameras that were contributing to the fact that there were very few complaints? Or could it even be so much as even the weather, that because of the bad weather that we've had so far at this early stage of the year, could that be contributing? And all of those were taken under consideration. We know that as the months get warmer, people get a little bit more antsy, and we may see some additional complaints at the Bloomington Police Department. And if they ever rise to the point where they get to be a review for the PSCRB, we'll be ready for that.
Gotcha. And I think it's probably the answer to your questions is all of the above.
Yes.
And some things we haven't even thought of. And I just want to say that, in every interaction I've had with the BPD in terms of getting into the neighborhoods and the community has been incredibly positive, a willingness to do community policing, try new methods, connect with the public. And to me, this is just a layer that has now created some data for us that kind of backs up that philosophy that the BPD has of being integral in our community and keeping our neighborhoods safe. So I'm very pleased with this report, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else? Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Chairman
I appreciate
Taylor.
it. Right.
Talk to you soon. Now, our last item, at least for discussion, is a review of the events, facade enhancements, infrastructure improvements, and facility upgrades happening in downtown Bloomington for the summer of 2019 as requested by the Economic Development, Community Development, Public Works, and Facilities Departments. Okay. Oops. Oh, excuse me. Oh, of course. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This basically is going to be about a 10-minute public service announcement We have got Melissa Hahn, the Director of Economic Development, Jim Karch, Director of Public Works, Bob Mart, Community Development Director, and Russ Waller, the Facilities Manager. And when I say a public service announcement, we're trying to cram a whole lot of stuff in the summer 2019 and also construction season 2019. And one of the very clear directions that council gave was increase effective communication about things that are going on in the community. While this is specifically about the downtown, we wanted to take the opportunity to share all the things that are going on and hope at the end of the season, both construction and events, we see that we had a successful 2019 and something we can improve on in 2020. Melissa, I think you're going to kick us off. Thank you.
Good evening. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to talk about all the wonderful things going on downtown this summer. The first thing is that we are making multiple efforts to make the downtown more beautiful. The first thing is that we are continuing a partnership that the DBA previously had with Mark First. We're continuing that through the Economic Development Department. They came in and did a spring cleaning for us, and they will continue to do regular litter pickup throughout the downtown 4 days a week. So that's been a wonderful partnership, and we're looking forward to continuing that with them. Next, also planting with parks. Our wonderful Parks Department maintains all of our trees downtown, as well as a lot of our built-in planters. They'll be planting those, amongst a million other things that they do. And then also coordinating with the DBA Adopt-A-Pot program. We're actually getting 60 new self-watering pots downtown this summer. So we're looking forward to those. They've been ordered. We're just waiting for delivery. And hopefully with those new planters being self-watering, that'll help cut down a little bit on the need for parks and the wonderful people from Adopt-A-Pot to have to water those. So we're looking forward to getting those installed. We're also doing the sidewalk power washing through the Public Works Department. And here in just a minute, I'll show you a map of all of what's been power washed through that partnership with Public Works. And then finally, we're getting a new art installation through the DBA Design Committee, Portraits on Monroe of Lincoln and Davis. Through the artist is Seth Gordon. So those will be going in hopefully when the weather starts to cooperate and become spring. So this is the power washing that's been done. We've got hopefully just one more day. They keep trying to come and finish it, and the weather's not cooperating. So hopefully this weekend will be the final day, and so all of those areas will then have been power washed for FY19. So getting it clean down there. You'll hopefully start to see this everywhere, encouraging people to go to the Downtown Bloomington website, the events page, to look at all the amazing events going on downtown. Right now we've got 120 events and counting, and that's just from April to August. So if you have a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Wednesday night, you want to know what's going on downtown, go to the downtownbloomington.org/events. And check out all of the wonderful events that are going on downtown. I just wanted to kind of highlight a few. We've got our First Fridays. I did set out also the little couple handouts that we have. So if you need a map or to know what some of the events are, and I set some out as well on the back table if anyone wants to pick those up on the way out. But we've got the First Fridays, the WGLT Summer Concert, Cogs and Corsets, a steampunk happening, the Lincoln's Festival on Route 66. Tony's Tacos is doing a Cinco de Mayo event. We've got the Bloomington Pride Fest, a spring sidewalk sale, and the Front Street Music Festival. So just to highlight a few that we have coming up this summer. And then as always, our farmers market. We've got our last indoor farmers market this Saturday. That'll be in the Grosinger Motors Arena from 10 to noon. We've got 18 vendors. For the outdoor market season, that'll be around the square every Saturday, May to October, and thanks to all the hard work of Catherine in our department as well as her volunteers, they're up to 58 vendors right now for the downtown market, and that's every Saturday from 7:30 to noon. And I also wanted to highlight with the farmers market that for those of you that don't know, in 2009, the downtown Bloomington Farmers Market was one of the first in downstate Illinois to accept Link, SNAP, or food stamps. And since then, since then, 81,000 has been spent with our vendors with the Link and Link Match program to allow customers to buy fresh fruits and vegetables. And that's a grant through Link Up Illinois, a program of the Experimental Station in Chicago. And Catherine just submitted our application last week for another grant, so hopefully we'll be able to continue that program. And then want to just thank Haphazard Press, a local downtown business that did the graphic for us. This just goes to show all of the wonderful things, once again, that we have going on downtown. When people say, why should I go downtown? Well, here are just a few things. 33 unique retailers, 20 dining experiences, 6 entertainment venues, 10 night spots. So the great thing for us is we have a very large downtown. There's plenty to do down there. And so once again, go to the downtownbloomington.org, pick up the map. We keep updating those as much as we can to keep everything on there. And we've got our Facebook pages, as well as we're going to be hopefully kind of upgrading and getting more out there on the social media. So I'm going to turn it over now to Bob Mart and let him talk to you about some facade improvements that are going to be coming. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Yes. The paintings of Mr. Lincoln, and where are those going to go?
Those are going to go on the Frank Hoffman Law Office. I'm sorry.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
Frank Hoffman Law Office. Yep, on Monroe.
Well, I'd like to acknowledge the City Council's continued support for the Harriet Fuller Russ Facade Grant Program. That's very important for our downtown. The program is intended to support preservation, restoration, and rehabilitation work in our downtown. The primary role of the program is to improve facades through masonry work, window restoration, painting, signage, and exterior lighting. But there are some non-facade improvements that can also be made, and that deals with sidewalk vaults, roofing, foundation systems, and design and engineering for our downtown buildings. We funded 6 projects last year through the Historic Preservation Commission, and those range from simple repair of rotted commercial sills to full storefront remodels. This was one project, the Reality Bites building, and where they enclosed some of their outdoor dining space and created a retractable window system that allowed them to give a longer season for their dining. This is another project in the downtown. It's an office building, and what we had was kind of a Gothic style, inappropriate remodeling of that commercial building, and we were able to investigate, although there were no photographs for that specific building, we were able to take some of those design elements from buildings in that immediate block, and the renderings that you see there replicate the original intent and architecture of that block and that building. So I think what you see from these renderings is the level of detail that the Preservation Commission is looking at when we approve the grants that are funded through the City Council. So I think that's important to understand. Some of the other things that we've been doing downtown, we've always tried through the planning department to have that public outreach and downtown engagement. Last year, I think many of you were familiar with our downtown picnic with the downtown residents and business owners, and I think that was pretty well received. There was even some ideas of taking those to other wards and other commercial areas to encourage those commercial areas to have that interaction with staff. I think this year what we're going to try to concentrate on is the National Historic Preservation Month and have a farmers market outreach, and I think planning staff will be there to provide that information. Also, we're looking at the National Parking Day in September, the National Planning Month in October, and obviously the annual Heritage Awards. That application process is now closed, but look for that cycle to come up next year in early winter. The City Council is always looking for staff to look at other opportunities for grants and outside funding sources. So with the partnership with the Advanced Health Team, the grant administrator, the city planner, and the downtown development specialist have worked with applying for a technical assistance grant through the USDA, and that's the Healthy Food Financing Initiative. And I think what that opportunity will do is to, if awarded, we can do a feasibility study, a business plan, and a site analysis for a potential indoor farmers market in the downtown area. Thank you for bearing with me. I've been sicker than a dog for weeks, and it's harder than hell to get these things out. So thank you.
There we go. So I'm only going to make you sit through one slide. So I'm more talking than anything else, but just going to explain some of the parking improvements that we've been doing in previous years, but also continuing. So the biggest that I think most people are aware of is the garage improvements, the change of the automation, replacing the existing gates with new equipment. So that is currently underway. We're nearing completion here very quickly. So the new equipment, much more user-friendly. It has touch screens. So when people approach the gate, they actually see a visual and provides instructions on what they actually need to do. Also is a little easier entry and exit than the current system. The current system uses an RFID card that you mount in your window, and it has to actually be read from a sensor that's mounted above in the upper deck. The new ones use prox cards that you actually reach out, and you don't have to physically touch something, but you reach out to get it close to the entry gate and pretty much guaranteed to open unless we've turned the card off for non-payment or other reasons like that. But very good luck with it so far. We do have it in operation, very, very minimal problems. Each one of the decks will have a pay station or a pay on foot machine, so they would be able to, someone that has cash, credit card, coin, can go to the pay on foot machine, pay for their parking, and then go to their vehicle and exit the garage. Also, every lane in all of the garages will have the ability to pay on exit. Those are only credit debit card though, so we don't accept cash at the lane, so you don't have to mess with the going to the pay on foot. Just get in your car, drive out the gate, and pay as you leave. The new system is fully integrated into the existing software, so it makes it much more user-friendly. We can provide better customer service by if a person calls and says they're having a problem with their card or a problem enter and exit the garage, we can pull up their account, go right to the times and the access times that they've come and left the garage, and look for any kind of irregularities or discrepancies or problems and be able to help them diagnose that problem and get it resolved as quickly as we can. So the arena and market garages are done. The gates are installed and currently operational. The Lincoln garage is still being worked on. We're expecting that to go live next Monday. And then we are operating all of the garages as we have for the past several years. We did not make any changes to the actual operation, so the gates are still being raised in the evening and come down in the morning. We're looking at changes to that, but then none of that will be implemented until we've done some evaluation. So far, we've actually received quite a few compliments. The easier access, minimal problems, as a lot of customers have experienced in the past. So multiple compliments have come in, and we've actually had multiple requests to let the transient parkers or the people that don't want to pay for a monthly pass to actually access the upper levels of the market garage. But since we're operating it as we have in the past, we're not allowing that at this point. Excuse me. So some other things with regard to the parking that we're doing is the safety improvements. So as part of this automation, we're actually installing security cameras. So there are security cameras that will be installed in every lane. Doesn't mean we're going to have one per lane, but it'll be the ability to see every exit and entry lane from all the garages. And then all pay-on-foot machines will have a camera dedicated to that pay-on-foot. So that added security gives a little more comfort to the customers as they're coming and doing their transactions. It also allows us to assist customers because another thing as far as the safety improvements is there's an intercom system that's installed with the gates. So if we do have a customer that pulls up to a gate, has a problem, they can push an intercom button and dials a phone number, which does change. So during the normal business hours, that phone call comes to us, comes to a parking office, and then we can address that customer, actually open up the security camera footage and be able to see what's going on physically while they're sitting at the gate or any questions that they might have. After hours, that service is being done by Heartland Parking, who is the installer of the equipment right now. So we've worked out an arrangement with them where they provide those after our response to customers. They don't have the ability to look at the cameras, but they can provide assistance. They can open gates and basically vend a gate and allow customers to come enter and exit the garage if necessary. So some other safety improvements would be the lighting upgrades that we've done in the past and we're currently working on for future. So the Market Garage was completely upgraded with new LED lights in 2016. When we have been actively upgrading all the lights in all the stairwells in all of the garages. Still working on some of those, but for the most part, most of the stairwells have been upgraded with new LED lights. And then in future years, as budget allows, we'll be upgrading the lights in the Lincoln Garage to LEDs out in the deck. And then just a few other improvements just to mention. So in addition to all of these upgrades and security improvements, we're also making it a little more user-friendly by doing some level coding of the garages. So each level is designated by a number, but some people need additional assistance with that, so we're providing additional incentives or ideas for them to remember where they parked. So in addition to the number, we've started at the Lincoln Garage and did a color coding, so each level has a different color, and then as time allows and budget allows, we are actually adding another a symbol coding, so that each level in the different decks would have, garages would have a different symbol to designate where they park. So that customer service, you see that in a lot of the garages. We're just trying to enhance that and provide a little assistance for customers just in helping remember where they did park their vehicle. And then lastly but not least is just some general maintenance and cleaning that we're doing in all the garages. So as we have time, we send our staff out there, basically do some touch-up painting. A lot of the handrails got painted in Lincoln Garage last year. We continue to do that, and just general maintenance and cleaning of the garages.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. They have given me 20 seconds because we're over time. I will be brief. We do have no less than 11 planning documents out there. We've done a lot of work in recent years on planning for our downtown. Let me highlight that we're going to this summer do 13 blocks of the downtown of mill and fill resurfacing and some other pedestrian accommodations. Some very exciting things that we're seeing. So a lot of work's been done. You know, in recent years with sewers, some of the underground work we always talk about, there's been a lot of lining and other work in anticipation of the resurfacing. That's one of the last things that we do. Front Street, I would like to highlight that. You can see that work out there right now. If it would not have still had snow on the ground today, we would have started putting down asphalt. That was the plan, starting today. So as soon as the weather permits, we are trying to get that first asphalt coat back on it so that then we can start doing some of the pedestrian accommodations you can see with the refuge island, and then also the rectangular rapid flashing beacons that we have at Main and Front. That is something new in our community. We're excited to see that. It's very pedestrian accommodating, so that whenever you push this button, you see very much a highlight to say, be aware, a pedestrian is using this intersection. It highlights the fact that this is a strong pedestrian corridor for our community, and it's probably the most used pedestrian corridor in our downtown, even though a lot of it's well used by our pedestrians. As a council, thank you. You allowed us to move forward with downtown wayfinding signage, so that is going to be done by the end of the summer. We can't wait to be showing you some improvements with that. Everything is on order, and we are ready to move forward. We're excited for that to get going. In the downtown, we have continued to move forward with the partnership with the Ecology Action Center. As you can see, we've started to add some recycling containers in the downtown. And then also, we're looking at some other key places that we always are trying to find the best places to have some of our containers in the downtown that get the most usage. And I also want to highlight just that high service level that we have in the downtown. Monday through Monday, every day of the week, we collect garbage and recycling in our downtown throughout the summer. I'll say that again. We have a crew, even on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, that drive every one of those containers and pick them up, even on Saturday and Sunday during the summer months when we have a lot of the festivals and other activities, such as the farmers market. And then we also provide street sweeping more than any other place in the community in our downtown, both Thursday nights and Sunday nights, so that we capture before events and after the weekend events to try to keep it as clean as we can. So a lot of service level with that as well. So with that, Melissa has some closing comments. I'd like to ask her to come up.
Okay. Well, we will First of all, thank you all, and we can shift to questions. Alderwoman
I
Schmidt.
have no questions. I'm speechless. Tim, thank you so much. And to all of you, and I see Tricia in the back I see the Tiltons back there. We've had the car built, waiting for gas in the engine for such a long time. My heart is happy, so thank you. This is great to see this moving forward. It's pragmatic, it's well thought out, it's well executed, and it's a real pleasure.
Thank you. What she said. Any other comments? Thank you again very much. Very much appreciate that. And now I'm going to turn this over to our city manager's report for our adjournment.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of quick items. Scott, do we have schedule of events for the week? Got it. For April 22nd, this is going to be our last council meeting before the end of the fiscal year. So it's a pretty heavy council agenda. Most of it is on the consent. We're letting a number of public works contracts for the construction season, making some purchases before the end of the fiscal year. Another area is, as Mr. Woolwind spoke about, is the vote on the aerial circus performance statue. The action that will come before council will be the final piece of approving that placement in the downtown area that he mentioned. McLean County took formal action about a month ago, and we'll be doing what will come before council is identical to what they've done already. We also have the finance director's report, and then under either mine or under the mayor's portion of the April 22nd agenda will be recognition of 4 outgoing aldermen. So well-deserved, varying degrees of service, but something that we wanted to do. Know that it's supposed to be low-key. I've got my marching orders from you guys, but it appropriate to recognize the service to the community. And then additionally, City Hall is closed on Friday, Good Friday, and Happy Easter to everybody in the community. And that'll do it. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you very much. We actually have we really don't have aldermanic comments, but I'll go ahead and...
I just had a question for...
Yes, please.
With reference to the circus performer statue, will this reflect what Jay and his folks are doing in terms of public art downtown? I mean, will this what am I trying to say? Will it reflect what we're trying to do downtown?
It is definitely a step in the right direction. There's more to come. On the topic of art, a cultural district map is going to come, not likely this council, but the next. Then also formalizing the process on art is something that we're working on as staff. What will come before council on April 22nd, there's a responsibility component to this for that piece of art that stands in the public right-of-way. But also at the end of the day, this is the city's speech. There's an approval component that the city has to approve at this level for for art to be placed in public right-of-ways.
Alderman Black, you have a question?
Thank you, and yes, thank you, Tim. So looking here, I see that May 13th is empty. I'm sure there'll be lots of things to discuss on that date. Are you getting all the information that you need from us about the video gaming and a couple of the other items that we've been talking about over the last few months?
Yes, actually staff internally, we've started that discussion, trying to collect what we saw at a couple of the council meetings. There might be some outreach, some clarifying questions, but really, all eyes are on Springfield with a couple of those areas with legalization of cannabis, sports betting. So this spring General Assembly, we're sort of waiting for that to end.
Gotcha. Thank you. Because as I start to think about some of these more perennial topics, whenever we have these committee of the whole conversations, just a quick update, get some feedback from us, really helps move that ball down the court and make sure that there are no surprises when the time comes. So I would encourage perhaps the 13th, maybe some of those laundry list items for the new council we can go through.
Any other questions? Mr. Gleason? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Alderwoman Schmidt. Is there a second? Second by Alderwoman Howman. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you. Well, you were right.